You're in hour 25 at 818-985-5735 with Jack Kirby. Go ahead.
Oh, how do you do? I would like to ask a couple of questions. The first one has to do with, do you know of any good women who are creators of comics? And the second question is, could you please talk about women as heroes in comics? And I will hang up so you can answer.
Thank you.
I've always had the highest respect for women as people, certainly, and I've always used them in comics as in the same manner that I've used my male characters. Women are heroines and villainesses, just as and contend with virtue and evil, even as men do. There's no difference between us except physical structure, in my mind.
You've actually created some very memorable female characters. Sif in Thor.
Yes.
Barda.
Yes, Big Barda.
Yeah.
I happen to like big girls, and Big Barda was a natural type of girl for me to draw. If you'll dig into this a little deeper, in a psychological way, you'll find that short men like large women. And if you'll notice my wife, she's maybe an inch or two taller than I am.
And he's not about to throw a brick at you, I believe.
Yes.
And the first part of the question the caller had was about women working in comics now. Which would you look at as being sort of the top field?
Well, I've always expected women to work in comics. Women always have.
Mm-hmm.
There was I forget her second name, but when I was a young man, there was a young woman named Marie who was doing comics, and she was a sister of one of the fellow artists. She was one of the first women in comics, and she did excellent work. There's no reason for women not to do comics.
So she worked with Jeanette Kahn too, I understand.
Yes. Jeanette Kahn is another example of women involved in comics. And Jeanette Kahn does a wonderful job as a publisher. Women, I think women should engage in, and have the chance to engage in, whatever kind of profession that they have in mind, and do the best they can.
We are at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, talking to Jack Kirby. Now,
as for women artists or writers working in comics,
well, Christy
Marks is one, Wendy Peeney is another.
Yeah,
that's right.
Working on ElfQuest. There was a husband and wife team, and Marie is the name I remember. John Romita? Marie?
No, it was
Marie Severin.
Marie Severin.
Yeah.
And John Severin.
Right.
And Vicente, who does Daredevil, and many others.
There's not many women working as writers or artists in comics. There's more working on the publishing or editorial end of it.
Now, there's a connection.
I don't know why.
But it's their prerogative. It's their prerogative. It is, drawing comics is not withheld from them. If they want to draw comics, fine. If they want to do other things in comics, I found that they were always welcome to do that.
You're on hour 25 with Jack Kirby. Go ahead.
Hello. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Let me turn this radio off. Jack, I heard you speaking something about laying in the snow, and what were you referring to?
My feet were purple.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I had to crack open my coat.
Yeah, well, you were lucky they didn't cut them off.
Well, they couldn't cut my coat off. They had to crack it open.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a real quickie since you're a humor man. We were up there, too, and the snow was pretty bad, and I won't mention any ranks or anything, but someone stole somebody else's sleeping bag. and the only sleeping bag that has feather downs inside of it. So the guy takes and he steals this other guy's bag, and he takes his pants off, he gets in the bag, and he had diarrhea. Well, when he woke up, the next...
You're in hour 25. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Dave from out in the Inland Empire.
Yeah?
Say hello to Jack. And I was wondering, I have a question for him. Have you met Will Eisner?
Will Eisner was one of the people I worked with at a very early date. I worked with Will Eisner when he and Sam Iger ran a studio, and I was just a young artist.
So he helped you out early in your career?
Yes, he did.
What's Stan Lee like?
Will Eisner is an industrious guy.
Okay, we got that one. Thank you for calling, caller. You're in hour 25. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering, Jack, regarding Captain America, if there's no need for him today, what would Steve Rogers be doing?
Steve Rogers would be doing something heroic.
For the environment, perhaps?
Yes. He'd probably be testing a new kind of plane, a new vehicle of some kind, or he'd be doing something for the government that would require people who like a dangerous environment. Steve Rogers is that kind of a guy.
I see. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're at 818-985-5735, and you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Jack Kirby. Always been a fan of your big splash pages. Always love those. And wanted to ask you two questions. What artists now do you think are hot, and which ones aren't? And what are you going to do now with all your artwork now that you got it back from who was it, Marvel?
Marvel.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get all of it back, but what I did get back, I was grateful for. And I leave the disposition of the artwork to my wife. In fact, I leave everything to my wife. And I just draw a bit and eat sandwiches.
And who do you think right now are the up-and-coming artists or writers?
All the artists that I've noticed are just wonderful. They send me the latest magazines from all the publishing houses, and they top the magazines of my day to a degree that astound me. The paper is so good. The kind of paper we got, well, you could use it in the bathroom and it would be great.
Like our first caller.
So the magazines today are wonderfully produced, they're wonderfully written, and they're wonderfully illustrated. I can't say too much about their quality.
Although I've noticed a number of the artists working today, every so often you'll turn a page in a Marvel comic, you'll look at Thor in a particular pose and go, he's doing Jack Kirby.
Well, I've seen spots once or twice where the figure was actually traced, but you can't. Somehow, I don't blame the artist for it. He wants to keep that kind of a mood in the strip. If it had been a motion picture, he might have, for instance, if he made another Star Wars, he might want to keep the same mood of the first Star Wars in the second picture. And so I think some of these fellows want to keep that mood and maybe build upon it. I see nothing wrong with it.
All right. Thank you for calling. Bye. And you're in hour 25. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Jack, for many hours of healthy introspection. And I have a question, two questions, actually. One on automobility, not referring to the current automobile, but what you think about the future of the automobile, or automobility in general.
Well, that usually resolves itself. In other words, that's never up to us. It's always up to the companies. And and how conventional they are. Maybe one day they'll do something radical, and we'll have an automobile that hovers above the street and flies above the traffic.
Fantastic car. What's your next question?
I'm thinking also about energy and things like this, the need for change along those lines and mass consumption.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the second question?
Second question is, you mentioned something earlier about the Bible, and you were mentioning Genesis, and a couple other things went by. And I was wondering how much you draw on the biblical superheroes, men like David and guys like that. Do they figure in prominently anywhere?
Yes, they do. Biblical figures have always been self-evident everywhere. And Samson was your first superhero.
Uh-huh.
And Samson, of course, did things other men couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Samson was your first Superman. He could do the same things that Superman did. He could do the same things that Captain America did. Of course, all of us have read the Bible or been told about the Bible in some way. We've absorbed it, and it's part of us. So it'll come out in our drawings and in whatever we build or talk about.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Where was the first tennis game played?
You got me.
When David played in King Solomon's courts.
Get out of here.
All right. You're on the air. Go ahead.
I learned how to read reading Jack Kirby teamed up with Stan Lee with Marvel Comics in the early 60s. So it's sort of an honor for me. My question is, and I don't think this has been talked about, how was the collaboration, which to me was the modern age of comics, started with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's working together? How did that either come about, and how did that develop in terms of how you wrote a story?
I wrote the story.
Huh?
I wrote the complete story. I drew the complete story. And after I came in with the pencils, the story was given to an inker. An inker would ink the story, and a letterer would letter it. And I would give the story to Stanley or whoever had the editor's chair, and I would leave it there. I would tell him the kind of story I would do to follow up, and then I went home and I would do that story. And I wouldn't come into the office until I had that story finished. And nobody else had to work on a story with me.
Okay, that's a little bit of a surprise. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's the revision of history that's been going on at Marvel for the last few years.
Yeah, well.
You're in hour 25 with Jack Kirby at 818-985-5735. Go ahead.
I can't believe it. I'm standing at two payphones. Oh, Jack Kirby, you're the greatest. When I was like 13 years old, 12 years old, like the whole world opened up to me. The guy Butch Sproul turned me onto these comic books: Captain America, Spider-Man, The Incredible Hulk. It was like a whole world, and I stayed with it for years. And God,
I take it you're a fan.
Jack, you're the best. I love you, Jack.
Well, believe me, it's all returned to you, and I love you too. And if you read any of my books, I appreciate that fact, and I have no words to express how wonderful that kind of thing helps my own spirit.
Jack, don't put those pens down. If you ever hear any story in your head, just do it, because it doesn't matter what anybody else says. There's people out there who care about what you write, and it means a lot to them. And there's kids out there right now who need to hear those stories. And like wherever you get your inspiration from, Jack, it's a great place.
All right, thank you for calling.
Thanks a lot, Jack. I love you.